Good morning, Life Church. How are we doing? Wow, for some reason, for such a small group of people in person, that felt like a really good response. It felt very engaged. That was cool. Well, thank you for being here today, and thank you everyone online for joining in online. How about today, let's stand first as we take our breath together and feel deeply this is like singer talk, but your diaphragm coming in all the way as we take a deep breath in together and deep breath out, and ridding ourselves of whatever stuff came in with us this morning. It's a clean slate, it's a new day, and we're here to grow and to learn and to love one another. And let us be awake to whatever the Spirit has for us today.
Gonna this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. Through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you. It is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. The waves and wind still know His name. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul.
Now, this time, as we sing through this chorus ending, I would love for you to visualize something that is hard or tough, you're struggling to reconcile with, and just lift it up in your mind and recognize that we can declare out loud that it is well and it will be made well. Because that's the promise of God, that all things are love and all things are possible with Him. And we can overcome whatever is happening in our life right now, be it anxiety or depression or anger or financial difficulty or betrayal or mistrust or whatever is happening right now. Just whatever that tough thing is, let's hold it in our mind and let's declare that it is well. Because of love, it is well in our souls, and our souls will help our hearts and our mind to follow.
With my is well with me.
Thank you, God.
Oh Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the works thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When through the woods and forest glades I wander and hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees. When I look down from lofty mountain grandeur and hear the brook and feel the gentle breeze, then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when I think that God her love not sparing gave all to end, I scarce can take it in, that on the cross my burden gladly bearing, love came and died, that love may grow again. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you for being so great that your love died for us, and because of that we are free, because of that we can love. Amen.
Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to Life Church on this cold January morning. It is January, right? Yes. Still January. It's weird. Winter has this way of feeling really like long and slow, but also feels like it's moving quickly. Anyway, welcome. Life Church is here to hold a safe space for you wherever you are in your faith journey. If church is your norm, it's your place of safety and grounding, or if church is something you're trying out because you're looking for things in your life that you want to be a little different, or you're not sure what you think and you want to take, I don't know, some time to figure that out. We are here for you. So thank you so much for joining us. If you could take just a second and fill out our connection card on the Life Church in the Life Church app and let us know you are here, that would be awesome. We have so many of our community joining us primarily online, and those connection cards are linked to you. It's how we know that you are joining us, and it's also a good place for you to tell us how you are. If you have any prayer requests, any questions, any things you want to give feedback on or ask us about, that's a great place for you to do that. So if you could take a second and fill out the connection card, that would be wonderful. And also, thank you so much for those of you who invest here financially at Life Church. We could not do what we do without the financial investment of our community. So, Kevin, if you could put up the next slide, thank you. I don't have that number memorized. if you'd like to give to Life Church, you can text any amount to 84321 and follow the prompts. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. And before I step down for one quick second and we'll play a little bumper video for you, I want to remind you about groups here at Life Church. They start this week. We have some starting tonight. It's an excellent way to get to know people here in our community. Another word about groups, I don't think I've said this semester, but I try to every time we start a new session. Groups is a place for you to make relational connection, and it's okay to try a group, hop out of a group, try another group, because sometimes it takes a little bit of time to find your people. But we have several groups. You can hop online, check out the descriptions on there, see if there's something that suits you, see if there's something you want to try. Message me if you want to talk through how do I pick a group or what might be a good fit for me. And we'd love to see you get connected and build some relationships for the winter season and the future. So thank you so much for joining us.
In the midst of our struggle, dis-ease, and affliction, know that you are made in God's image, and God sees you as whole and good. May you celebrate God in your midst through opportunities of wholeness and justice. In the wholeness and goodness of God, go forth. Go and laugh with your friends. Reconcile with those who have hurt you. Be kind to strangers. And feel the divine smile upon us, now and forevermore. Amen.
Sorry, is that me? I forgot to bring the mic with me. Okay, so our very first week of the What We Learned Last Year series was supposed to be the week that we got iced out, right? So Greg Carey came last week and kicked us off. If you heard him, he was like, I didn't know I was the kickoff. So he wasn't supposed to be. So we had a great week with him last week. But I want to take a few minutes just to kind of remind everybody what our hope is and was for this series. The main goal and hope is that these Sunday mornings together are an opportunity for us to hear from each other, to listen to the struggles, victories, questions, celebrations of those within our community, and together just to be strengthened with hope for the future. Because God is moving. God is moving in each of our lives, and we can share it with each other. The chairs, if you're wondering, like, why is she sitting in a chair? It's hard for people to speak about their personal lives in front of other people, so this is supposed to help. It's supposed to feel more comfortable. Will it work? I don't know. Never did it before. But we talked about it. We thought, let's put a couple chairs up there and sit down and try to alleviate some of the pressure of performance and just kind of create a space where we're talking. So that's why they're here. And one of the things that happens when we share our lives with others is we open ourselves up to the possibility of connection, not only with each other, but also with God, who is within each of us. So God shows us things about ourselves, God's self, all through our interactions with one another in the world. The Bible is our record of people for thousands of years doing this very thing, meeting God in their daily lives, their culture, their circumstances, working it out and sharing about it. And we draw encouragement and hope, and we learn important lessons by watching them. Looking back can also have a way of creating hope for our future. It's a way to kind of pause and commemorate the roads we've walked and the journeys that we have made, the battles that we have fought, whether we lost or won. We see how God has been present in our lives, and it's a way to kind of catalog or lay down a marker, a road marker along our journey. So this morning, as we start our first morning of community sharing, I'm going to share first. I'll take just a few minutes just to share. It's not a prepared sermon or anything. It's just 5 to 10 minutes of me sharing what I think I learned last year. And then we have 2 other members of our community who are going to share with us as well. Just so you know, we do have Justin Douglas joining us again in the future for this series, and Sean Smucker. And then we will have one more Sunday that will be filled up with more people from our community sharing what they learned last year. So we have time for everyone. I'm just going to get started. And also, this is super awkward, but I don't usually chew gum, and I put gum in my mouth this morning, and I forgot to spit it out, so I'm actually going to take it out of my mouth right now in front of everybody, because it's driving me crazy. Thank you. I was trying to think of a way to do that without making it obvious, and I couldn't, so might as well just tell you. Okay, so my last year. When I look back on my last year, I'm honestly filled with kind of profound gratitude, just like a lot of gratitude. Gratitude for so many things. I'm really grateful for where I am today, for the work I get to do here with Life Church, and for my family and friends, and for the way things have shifted in my life, and for how I have found God and myself in new ways. Alongside my gratitude, I also often carry this feeling of being really overwhelmed. Like I'm in a very busy space, and I often have pictures in my mind as ways of visualizing my feelings or my experiences, because I think that visualizing images of my feelings in a particular moment helps me kind of acknowledge really fully where I am in this moment. So for last year, especially at the end of it, when I closed my eyes and tried to just be present, I found myself picturing myself feeling safe, but also really surrounded by like a really dense fog pretty much all around me. I'm kind of like, in my vision or the way I see it, I'm kind of like feeling my way through things, kind of reaching out and taking steps, but I can't see super far ahead of me. And I think I know what I'm reaching out for, but I'm not 100% sure it's going to feel the way I think it will, or that it's going to be the weight that I'm expecting it to be when I pick it up. So in this image that I have of myself, I feel grounded, and I know things are happening all around me, and it's okay, and it's good, and it's safe, but I just can't quite see what it all is around me. I can't quite get a full, clear picture. Things are moving, and they're going well, and I know I need to just keep taking one step at a time, but there's so much that I've never experienced in this way, and so much feels really unclear. So I carried this feeling that things are really changing, and I can't really articulate exactly what all of the changes and the shifts are. But I can honestly say I've believed it's good, but I'm not exactly sure what it is, where it's taking me, and I don't really know exactly how to talk about it. So a little bit about my last year, which is kind of what led me to having this feeling of being grounded, but also in a dense fog. Last year, my daughter went from a sophomore to a junior in high school. My oldest son went from a freshman to a sophomore in high school, and my youngest son went from 5th grade to being a 6th grader in the last year of intermediate school. So, you guys, my kids are growing up. My time with them, where they're home with me full time, is wrapping up. It's really weird. I worked the majority of the year with my husband here at church with all of you, and we struggled to navigate COVID and church, in person and online, all of that stuff. That was all last year. Personally and publicly, we did our best to walk with love through the vaccine conversations and the COVID restrictions and the plethora of ideas our family and friends have about COVID and politics. And we, in our particular life, we are the ones who have shifted a lot theologically and away from political positions we may have grown up with. And it's been difficult on many of the important relationships in our life. That was a lot of last year. As you know, the year progressed, and Jason eventually made the difficult decision to resign. His personal struggle to carry the weight of leadership and all of the shifting within him and with us, he just needed more attention. He needed space to be and to just grow and to heal. As you know this part of the story, I fully support him in caring for himself, and he fully supported me in staying here in this position. But it's been really weird at times to be here knowing he is leaving, and then also after he left. We met in Bible school, and we married with plans to do some sort of ministry together. We hosted Bible studies in our house, led youth groups, and eventually planted a church together. We have been doing life in this type of way for our entire 22 years of marriage. It's been really weird to be here without him. So, for me, this past year, especially the end, there has been a huge element of grief, just grief. Grief for me, and simply the acknowledgement of the death of something, like a way that I pictured our life or the way we've always functioned together in some sort of ministry. Grief about how much so many of our personal relationships, my personal relationships with family or old friends have changed. And in more cases than I really feel comfortable with, they've either ended or they feel really fragile. Things that defined me and my marriage died. And I grieve that loss, the loss of the life that I expected to be living. I embrace it as much as I can, but I also grieve it. But right alongside the grief, there's also this persistent hope and new way of being. So it's kind of exciting when I'm not full on intimidated by it. There's a new life that's springing up against all odds in ways that I didn't visualize, I didn't expect, I didn't really dream of. And it reminds me of the old and trustworthy pattern that we all see in Jesus' life. It's like the birth, the death, and the resurrection happening all over the world. Life, death, and new life. It's the pattern, over and over and over. So besides all of these things about my life, last year, 2 random things that happened in our personal lives. Our dog had puppies for the first time, and I cared for them and trained them until they were 9 weeks old and went to their new homes. And a huge 70-foot tree fell on our garage this past fall. It barely missed our house where my children were napping and watching TV, and it totaled our 2 vehicles and left us with what we currently still have at our house, which is a giant blue tarp and a giant brown tarp that hang over an empty concrete pad where our garage used to be. So, yeah, it was unsettling, but we were honestly really wicked thankful that it was only our garage and that we were all safe. So when December came, I felt good and I felt hopeful, and I also felt like I was a little sad and living in a little bit of a fog. I was feeling sure and grounded, and also things were moving really fast, and I wasn't able to grasp all that was happening. So I know I'm okay, and this is good, and God is very present with me, but also I can't quite make it out. One step at a time, and I'm not sure where it's leading. So I was in that headspace this past December when I was reading the book Honest Advent by Scott Erickson. It was early in the book. It was day 6 of the reading, and he was talking about unease. He was thinking through the story of Mary and considering the practical struggle or unease of being pregnant, which I know some people here can experience identification with that. The unease he was specifically talking about morning sickness. And I read this quote. He said, "Just like morning sickness, unease is a strategy of the soul to protect you from doing all the things as usual that could harm this new life being grown in you." And I stopped. It resonated really deeply with me. Unease, discomfort, change, loss, it's a strategy of the soul to protect you from doing all the things as usual that could harm new life being grown in you. So I think my big takeaway from last year is coming from that idea. So much can happen in a year. So many hard things and uncomfortable things, unexpected things. That uneasy feeling or experience or struggle or broken relationship or complication or pain or grief that we feel, it's a way that our soul is guaranteed to continue producing new life, new ways of being in the world, new life that we actually really need. So that unease and difficult stuff, it's going to keep us from getting lost. It kept me from getting lost in the doldrums of life. And it will keep me, if I'm open to it, looking to Jesus for comfort, truth, guidance. And that experience will result in new growth in me over and over. So today, as I sit here in front of you, I can honestly say without hesitation that I have never loved Jesus more than I do today. And I have never been more grounded in my connection with God. I have never had to do so many new things and so much personal work to be able to keep taking one step at a time. And I've never found identity, companionship, and community like I've experienced here with Life Church. And I say it all the time, it's a gift to be here, and it is. So all that unease I've experienced, all that unease we all feel and walk through, I'm not going to tell you it's all good and it's no big deal. Quite the opposite. It's wicked hard. But it does do something for us. It protects our growth, and it keeps us from killing off new life in new ways of being and new ways of experiencing God that are hard but so good for us. It's the kind of change that you can't fully envision beforehand, but after you get through something really hard, you just kind of realize you're different. You don't want to go back to the way you were before the hard time. It's almost like your soul knew that you needed to get here to this better, more whole place, a new life that your soul kind of longed for. So life, death, and new life, it makes up my year again, last year. It's also at the core of the Christian life, and I found it really hopeful. New life is always on the way, and unease is our soul's way of protecting that new life and leading us to better ways of being in more wholeness. So yeah, that's my takeaway from last year. Thanks for listening. When I asked if people wanted to share, my first one came from the next person who's going to share with us. And I was trying to think of how do you transition? Because there's this moment where you're going to be sitting up here sharing your heart, and then we're going to bump over to someone else's story, and there might not be any thread of connection at all. So I just want to say the connection is that we're a community, and that this is people leaning in. This is just an example of people showing up. So maybe you want to take notes about the things that stand out to you, and you process them later, or say something to the people who share, or don't. That's okay if you don't, but it's a gift when people open their hearts to us. So I'm really excited that I had a response from people, and if you appreciate it, let them know. Thanks for sharing. So the next person who's going to share is Jamie. So Jamie, if you could come up and join me on stage, I have a chair for you. Here's a mic. And if you could just introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you, and then share whatever you would like to share about what you learned from last year. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing yourself. It's always beautiful. I enjoy that. And since I have the microphone, you're just going to have to listen to what I say. Corey loves being married to me. So, as Mindy said, my name is Jamie Shank. I am one of your staff members here at Life Church. So I spend a lot of my time doing that. When I'm not doing that, I have 3 kids. If you walked in through the front doors, I can't figure out how far away this should be.
That's good.
Two,
They'll adjust.
2 of the kids greeted you. So I have Eleanor, Henry, and Addie, 6, 4, and 2. They are great. They all have their own vibrant personalities, and we love them dearly. Corey is also going gray, so that's both sides of that coin. I will say that this process, the process of stopping and reflecting and looking back and evaluating, is something we do on our staff team. And we take off that last Sunday of the year. And part of that week for us internally is to kind of take that time to take a deep breath and think about what the year's been and what we learned and kind of go from there. So, intro sermon series, but just so you know, it's something we do as a staff practice as well. So what I'm going to share is just a little something I jotted up for Mindy. And then she asked me to share, so thank you for the invitation. That is awesome. So it's been this idea I've been thinking about all year. So not always as clearly at first, but it was the first phrase that popped in my head when I started to process Jason resigning. So I was like, okay. So this idea is around, I'm going to air quote, holding the line. I know that can be a very tactical military phrase, and I can be a little partial to some aggressive language in my day-to-day life. But I don't mean in the sense of oh, we're going to hold the line so the enemy doesn't break through. I know I'm very macho masculine. But I mean in the sense of, okay, I'm going to hold the line, which means I'm not going to yield to the pressure of this difficult situation. Nervous laugh at the end. So 2021 has been a year of opportunities to show up and lean in, or to sit back quietly and blend into the wallpaper. So I'm an Enneagram 3 with a very developed 4-wing, which means I oscillate between these ideas of full force energy, tear it all down, the world is what you make it, go, 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 yeah, so fun. And this season 5 Rachel Green of you lift right out. Doesn't really matter. Oh, I don't have to do that thing. What difference does it make? Oh, we'll just let that go. So when you hold the line, it can mean I'm going to lean into this hard conversation. I'm going to start asking questions because I really want to know, and I don't want to live this way. Sometimes it means holding a boundary or just letting yourself be misunderstood. Sometimes it means, you know what? I really love this, and I'm committed to being present through this next part. Even though I'm positive, parts of it are going to be painful. That's a lot of what our staff meetings are. Just me standing there going, ee! Okay. So there are a lot of different kinds of showing up. My husband Corey and I went to Slide Rock State Park in Arizona this past fall. It's a naturally made water slide through the Red Rock Canyons of Sedona. And it is so, so beautiful, guys. I love the desert, but even if you didn't, it's beautiful. But also, the water is literally 40 degrees. When you get in, your body is in physical pain. It hurts so bad. And how are you supposed to go down a water slide when everything hurts? Yuck. Anyway, I'm particularly finicky about the temperature of my body. And in previous years, I would have left with just not doing it because it's just really uncomfortable. Well, I got there. I was like, well, this just isn't the year for that. I painstakingly, slowly got into the water. Corey was literally like, are you going to do this? Are we going to go? It's been 45 minutes. I'm like, I am doing it. Don't rush me. Needless to say, I did slide all the way down. I'd come all this way already, and that was really stretching for me, and I consider it a victory. Sometimes it looks like when you're I'm going to start that sentence over.
Sorry.
So good.
Take your time.
Uh-huh. Sometimes it looks like when your best friend surprises you at lunch and wants to ask you how you feel about Jason leaving. And you pretty much just start openly weeping with a mouthful of half-chewed sushi. Oh, gosh. 2 things about my weeping. One, I am an ugly, ugly crier. It is not one glistening tear down my cheek. It is it's just horrendous. I'm pretty sure Maggie didn't eat sushi for a couple weeks after that because it was pretty awful looking. And 2, me crying is kind of like Bigfoot. You hear myths of it, tales of long ago, But there's no real evidence, and there's only one hazy eyewitness with an eye patch. Like, you've got no proof. For the record, there's nothing wrong with crying, and I love that journey for you. Okay, what I really love is this community. So holding the line in this season also means new job responsibilities, dusting off some old skill sets, standing on stage, asking for help for Christmas because I can't do it alone. I have said more on this stage in last 6 months than I have all the 10 years combined. So that's stepping outside of my comfort zone. Sometimes the encouragement you give over margaritas in a sports bar turns into someone else's holy moment. Usually when anyone needs any kind of emotional support, I immediately am like, let's get Mindy. Like, is she here? I can get her. Yes, we'll get Mindy. It'll be great. You stay put. But if I had, I wouldn't have found those little pieces of healing that I didn't even know I needed. I was like, yes, I can do this. I can sit with this pain and listen, and I'm capable of encouraging another person. From the year I was having, I just wasn't sure anymore. My confidence was definitely shaken. So, those very deep places that are hurt, all the little secrets you keep, but buried deep down, the cruel words said to you and about you, when you hold the line and show up and lean in, sometimes those places are touched and you experience some healing. And that is just such a gift. Rachel Held Evans ends her book Inspired with this idea surrounding miracles. So it's not so much if you actually believe in the literal miracles of the Bible. It's whether you're living a life where you are acting like you believe in miracles. So I've come to find that when you live your life holding the line, being present and open and willing to step out and try something new or different, I'm acting like I believe in miracles. So I'm so hopeful for this year, for this community, and for the people who will come. And I don't want to detract from the hard realities of this season. I do think hiring will be really hard, and I don't have many answers. And I know it can just be painful to look forward and just not know. Like, I have no idea. But you know what? Ta-da. Anyway, I really love this. This community, this place, and I'm committing to being present through this next part, even when I'm positive that parts of it are going to be painful. The end. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Thank you, Jamie. That was great. You're fine. Thank you. It's not easy to do. Not easy to do. Let's clap for her one more time. Good. Thank you. All right. While she runs out to catch her breath, I'm going to invite Dwayne to the stage to share with us what he learned last year.
We're going after that. I'll be a big Debbie Downer.
No way.
Good morning. Okay. See y'all. Oh, gosh. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dwayne. I am one of the hospitality team leaders here, and I'm your occasional greeter and welcome and announcements person. I found Life Church a little over 5 years ago, and it quickly became home to me. I was searching for a church where there was community. It wasn't big, it wasn't overwhelming, and the people get to know each other and experience each other and learn from each other. And this is the place that I found, and I'm so glad, so happy, so blessed that I have found it. Okay, 2021. 2021 was a very challenging year for me in many facets. Starting off right at the beginning of the year. Right after New Year's, I got sick. By January 6th, I was diagnosed with COVID-19. Yay! By Sunday, January the 10th, I was having such difficulty breathing that my family had asked me several times to go to the hospital. And I refused because everything we heard, everything we read was the people in the hospital, the people on the ventilators weren't making it home. I didn't want to be one of those people. So I said no. And all throughout the day, several times, I said no. But by 10 p.m. that evening, I was on my knees, wondering where my next breath would come from. And I did what we all should do. I cried out to the Lord. I asked Him to give me strength, to give me breath, and I would go to the hospital and let the professionals do what they're supposed to do. So if you know anything about COVID, you're weak. Walking from one room to the next is tough. So for several days I hadn't showered. So my first inkling was, I'm not going to the hospital smelling like this. So I mustered enough energy to get into the shower and clean up a little bit, and mustered, challengingly, enough strength to put on some clothes and go downstairs. And I said, okay, take me to the hospital. So we got to the hospital right before midnight, and they took me back and put me into emergency and started poking me and prodding me and filling me with needles and tubes and all that fun stuff. And I just remember shivering. I couldn't get warm. 1 blanket, 2 blankets, 3 blankets, and I just shook. Now, I don't know if that was the COVID, could have been the COVID along with my type 2 diabetes, but I just could not get warm, and I was shaking and shaking and shaking. And the doctors took blood and checked my breathing, and then my spouse was not allowed to come back, so she was out in the lounge, and I told the nurse, just tell her to go home, please, because I knew they were keeping me. Oh, okay, I'm just jumping up and going home now. I knew I was staying. For how long, I didn't know, but I knew I was going to stay. So they told her to go home, and a doctor came in and said, well, you have COVID. And I said, I knew that. I told you that when I came in. He says, yes. He says, but you have pneumonia. So he said, how'd you like to stay? I just shook my head and tried to get warm. So they quickly found me a bed. Luckily, it was at the end of the hall on the 3rd floor, so I wasn't in the middle where I heard everybody, and I could actually try and sleep. Because if you've ever been in the hospital, one of the hardest things to do is sleep. And in the condition I was in, rest was needed. I needed to rest. So, however, being a type 2 diabetic, they were going to give me steroids and all other kinds of stuff to help fight the COVID and fight the pneumonia, which were going to shoot my sugar sky high. So they had to start giving me insulin, which I do not take. So they're shooting me with insulin, which means every 2 hours or so they're coming in to prick my fingers and check my sugar levels. So much for sleeping. So that didn't go too well. It was hard to sleep. But I stayed there in my solitude, and I did the best thing I could do. I prayed. I prayed for everything and everyone I could think of. And then I finally started to pray for myself. And I was filled with the Spirit. I was filled with knowing that He cared for me. Knowing that My family cared for me. My friends cared for me. I started to receive numerous text messages when I could muster the strength to look at my phone. I started receiving flowers, and I knew I was loved. I ended up being in the hospital only for 3 short days. They did a great job, got me home, but one of the things I did go home with was oxygen. So rewind back to 2016, I watched my father-in-law die on oxygen after being on oxygen for several years. So I'm not feeling too good about going home with oxygen, but I did what the doctors told me. The next thing that happened that really showed me I was loved was all of you. I got messages from Mindy and Jason and Jamie, and everybody started sending food for me and my family. I was just so blessed by all of you. This community lifted me up when I was at my lowest, and I appreciate you all. I'm sorry. Those meals were sustenance for our body, but they were love from all of you. So this community stepped up when one of its own needed help. My coworkers from work sent me gift cards for food so my family could go get food for the house and help me do the things that I would normally do. So they stepped up. They showed me love. So my takeaway from that situation is God is good. He's truly good, and he wants good for all of us. So after 45 days of being out of work, I went back to work. Too soon. But by the grace of God, I got better and didn't need the oxygen anymore and got back to being Dwayne. So that was a blessing. 2021 had other things in mind for me as well. Obviously, disruption in my health, disruption in my work life. But there was an interesting situation that happened in August of 2021. My wife complained about a noise in the van. I took her for a drive, heard the noise myself, thought maybe there was a broken tie rod or control arm that was banging up underneath the vehicle. Couldn't see anything without putting it up on the lift, and I don't have a lift at home, so I'll drive it to work instead of my car and get it looked at. So as I start driving from, I work in York, so live here in Lancaster. I'm driving down Route 30 to York at highway speeds, and the knocking gets louder and louder. As I get close to York, I'm in the right-hand lane, and I hear a voice. And the voice says, "Get in the left-hand lane." I'm not going to make the story real long, but I've heard that voice before, and it saved my life, so I got in the left-hand lane. As soon as I got in the left-hand lane, the driver's side wheel and tire left the vehicle. It went across the grass median. It went across 2 lanes of traffic, missing 2 other cars coming the opposite way, and went back into some grass thicket that's probably up to my waist. And I found that out because I went searching for it and couldn't find it. The vehicle skidded into the dirt, digging into the ground and stopped. And I sat there for about 5 minutes going, that did not happen. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. And then I slowly realized that I was sitting in the grass median in a minivan with 3 wheels, and that did happen. And then I remembered that voice and looked back at the roadway where that hub would have dug into, and the van probably would have skidded or tipped, rolled, and there was traffic behind me. And then realized that that voice just saved my life. And as I said earlier, I know that voice. So I sat there and cried and gave thanks to the Lord. Disruptions happen. Things that are totally out of our control happen. My takeaway from that is God is love. He loves us. Miracles do happen because He loves us. So, 2021 had more in store for me. Later in the year, I started having very vivid dreams. Dreams that felt incredibly real. Dreams that I felt myself reaching in and trying to participate in removing someone from. The dreams were maddening because I would wake up before there was a conclusion, before I could do anything or the situation ended. The dreams would get me verbal to the point where my spouse would wake up and shake me to wake me up. They came once, they came twice, they came 3 times, they came 4 times. And after the 4th time, I had to discuss the dream with someone because the dream was of that someone with someone else that wasn't me. I discussed the situation with my friends in small group, and we talked about some of the outcome and some of the things going forward that I need to do in my personal life. But the dreams displayed something that happened years ago that I was not aware of. Things that were hidden from me, and I never got a chance to discuss, rectify, heal. And it created a very tough situation. It created a reality that I now have to live with. And may change my life and my family's life forever. But my takeaway from that situation is God cares. My small group showed me they cared. They prayed for me. They lifted me up. as I go through this challenging situation. They were there for me. So, summing up my 2021, yes, there were things that were really good about 2021 for me. I got a promotion at work. I got a job that I love, and I get to help develop other team members and share my gifts, my knowledge with them, and help them thrive and help them take care of their families and do more. I love that. Obviously, like all of you, I was disrupted by Jason's leaving. Jason and I developed a very close relationship, and I love him like a brother, and I miss him. But like Jamie said, I decided to lean in because I love Life Church and all of you. We are a community. We are a strong community. And together we can do amazing things. So, although compared to Jamie, my talk was not as jovial, to say the least. But 2021 was fun, challenging, disruptive, all those things that a year can be. But if Jason and Mindy can forgive me for stealing this from them, 2021 taught me more than anything that right here, right now, God is for you. God is with you. He's loving you. And that is enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you. If the band would like to come up for our closing song, I am struck with the awareness of how full all of our lives are and how different and unique, and yet also how God shows up for each one of us and in different ways. So I hope you're encouraged. I hope that you have something to consider or think about as we leave this morning. Thank you so much for sharing with us. It's a gift to know each other. So, it's all you.
How about let's stand for this one? We just had a lot of input, and this is a really lively song, so let's release some of what we just brought in, but also hold what we brought in, because everything we heard was very meaningful. And thank you, Jamie and Dwayne, for sharing and being vulnerable and open.
So ground to
Thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope this week, as you move and live throughout your days, that you see the goodness and love of God all around you, and the people around you, and the experiences and relationships that you have, and the different situations you have. Thank you guys again for being willing to share your story with us. If you consider them at all. She's saying, don't say anything to me. Sorry. Maybe don't say anything to Jamie today. Give him a thank you for leaning in, and thank you guys for being part of our community, for honoring each other in the ways that you do. Hope you have a wonderful week, and don't get too cold. So be well.